What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Double Coverage, the premier NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here tonight with the 2025 reigning Turkey Bowl champions, Tony Minarik and Robert Rachow. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Nice. Glad to hear from you guys. Glad to have you in the booth. Got a great show in store for you guys tonight. Talking about NFL, talking about some fantasy, talking about things happening in and around the league. Robert, I'll start with you. What are your takeaways so far, this far into the season, just with what we've seen? Injuries? Are we surprised with how many injuries we've seen? Or does it seem like par for the course?
I think it's par for the course, but also like a lot of the injuries are coming from the same teams. So you start to wonder, like, all right, is it their field? Is it their training staff? Is it their strength conditioning? All that kind of comes into play, especially with teams like San Francisco and the Lions, who every year seem to have multiple big injuries right out of the gate. So that's kind of my takeaway, and obviously some other teams have been hindered. Joe Burrow going down. Lamar Jackson's been out for a little while now. So a lot of teams have been impacted, but some of the same teams getting those, multiple plethora injuries is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I agree. It's really been it's hindered every team. I think no team is really exempt from injuries. So whether it's a fantasy team you're talking about, other obviously certain teams are hit harder than others when it comes to fantasy. But when you're looking at the league from bird's eye view, it's affecting everybody. So you can't really get away from it. T, what are your takeaways so far through week 7 here?
Like you said, I don't think the sheer number of injuries is anything that would come off the page, jump off the page at you. But what I feel like is there's been a lot more big name, like star players that are going down. The Joe Burrows, the Tyreek Hills, the Malik Neighbors, the Mike Evans, like a lot of big name guys that are going down. That usually you get one or two a year that are like really big that just are devastating to NFL teams, fantasy teams especially. So you kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, just one or two here. But this year, this feels like every week there is a big name going down, or at least going to be out a couple weeks. Garrett Wilson's out a couple weeks. Lamar was out a couple weeks. Now Daniels is going to be out for the second stretch with this hamstring after he just came back from, what was it? I think it was a knee or something, or a hip. So I mean, it just feels like every week there's a big name guy that's going down that you would think was an quote unquote an Iron Man that's usually pretty healthy, that all of a sudden they're on the shelf for a week or two or out for the season.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. I'm going to call them the Washington Redskins. I hope you guys don't mind. That's what they're called. That's what even true fans would call them. And for them to take that name away from those Native Americans is sacrilege. It's really terrible. But speaking of Washington, obviously Jaden Daniels is out with a hamstring this coming week, and Marcus Mariota is in. I forgot Marcus Mariota even played in the NFL. I mean, Robert, tell me something good about Marcus Mariota. Does he still have the juice? Is he ready to compete in an NFL contest? What's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a reserve role last year, he threw 4 touchdowns, no picks. This year, not looking so hot. I mean, he came in against the Cowboys and had a passer rating of like 20. So I don't know if, it's just a matter of, you never know what you're going to get with a backup, and they haven't played in a while. Maybe they just got to get in a groove. But he's a veteran player, right? I mean, obviously he's been around. He's kind of been that Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of player where he's just hopped around a bunch of different teams and has never really like taken over. So he's kind of that wild card a little bit. He can make some plays. It's hard to game plan for somebody like that. He's explosive. He can take off and run. So yeah, I think that they got a chance. And it's kind of unfortunate that their division is the way it is right now, with the Giants kind of ascending. Cowboys have been around a 500 team. So the Commanders have just kind of had a bad string of games here. They just lost to the Bears, right? Just last minute field goal against the Bears. So that's a tough one to swallow. And the Bears are kind of one of those ascending teams too. So we kind of thought Washington was going to take that next step, but they've been hit with those injuries like we've talked about, and we'll see what a backup quarterback can do with some of those players coming back.
Absolutely. T, what do you got to say about Marcus Mariota? I know he was a beast when he played for Tennessee. That was back when the Tennessee Titans were relevant. That seems to not be the case anymore. What do you remember from Marcus Mariota, and can he be an asset to this Washington offense?
Well, I think the highlight of his NFL career was throwing the touchdown pass to himself, I think in a playoff game. Well, other than that, it hasn't been that great. I mean, coming out of obviously Oregon, going and playing in the national championship game and looking good in it, everybody thought he's going to be the next dual threat quarterback in the NFL, and he hasn't lived up to that high expectation people had. But can he run an offense, an NFL style offense, and be competent? Yeah, he still has the ability to do that. Is he going to run it as well as Jaden Daniels? No. Is he as athletic as Jaden Daniels? No. But can he run the offense? Can he get out of the pocket? Is he still athletic enough to, use his legs and pick up a first down here and there? Yeah. And can he make a throw? Also, yeah. But it's if you're a Redskins / Commanders, whatever you want to call it, if you're a Washington fan, you're not thrilled that he's coming in, but it could be way worse. You could have Nathan Peterman as your backup. So he definitely is better than most backups, but he's still a backup QB in the NFL. And I know 32 teams are going to say, I want my starter in. And that's the same thing with the Commanders. They want Jane Daniels out there. But if I'm also a Washington fan, take it easy. Hamstring injuries. Look at Lamar, was out 3 weeks, 3 weeks with the bye. So take it easy because you don't want him to pull Mike Evans sat out, but he broke his collarbone. But hamstrings injuries are real touchy. They can come back at any time, and you don't want Jane Daniels. If you can make a run with Marcus Mariota, we're getting you a couple wins, comes back, I mean, that's a playoff team, and you can win a couple playoff games. Look at last year, upset the Lions in the first round. You kind of were not seeing that one coming. They have the talent for it. They can stay healthy, and Jane Daniels can come back and have healthy legs under him in a week or 2 or 3 weeks even. They're still a good football team.
Yeah, you got to tip your cap to the unsung heroes, which are the backup quarterbacks in the NFL, the Cooper Rushes, the Andy Daltons. You mentioned the Matt Fitzpatricks, the Kyle Allens. These are the guys that really build the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater, right? Okay, now a lot of these guys, you only see them in commercials nowadays, Capital One commercials, or you see them on Thursday Night Football, right? But these guys are still the unsung heroes when it comes to the NFL. You got to tip your cap to them because a lot of these guys, like an Andy Dalton, he's kind of like a sworn by backup. You look at him, he's a backup, right? He's not a starter. So just think about those guys, and they also get painted in maybe not the best light because they're a backup, and this is in the same light of Marcus Mariota. But these guys are essential to certain teams, and if they can carry the torch, carry the baton, especially when their starting guy is out. And you got to tip your cap to guys like Joe Flacco, which that's what I'm going to transition into now, is talking about the shootout in Cincy. I mean, tell me about this game. Robert, lead us off. This game was impressive. I was very entertained. What can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I mean, Flacco's kind of a natural fit for a down the field passing offense. I mean, you go back to the Baltimore days where he was just running play action deep throw all day. You go back to his playoff run where they won the Super Bowl and he threw 11 touchdowns, no picks, and there was a lot of down the field action going on. So it's kind of cool to see one of those old gunslingers still around, kind of a like dying breed. It feels like where he even came out in the presser afterwards and he's like, hey, I didn't even know the play on a couple of them. I just let it rip, and he targeted Jamar Chase 20 times or 22 times or something, which when you have a player of that caliber, why not? Why not just give him a chance? It's not a 50-50 ball when they're a top 5 receiver in the NFL. So I thought it was great. Am I surprised they came in and did that? Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I was surprised they even traded Flacco to an interdivision opponent, to a team that needed a quarterback. I mean, Browning wasn't doing it. So that was all surprising. And, Rodgers is proven he's still got a little bit left in the tank too. So it was an entertaining game. Definitely one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. Not if you're a fan of defense, but obviously a lot of fireworks in offense. So I thought it was great.
Absolutely, I have to agree. Tony, I know you're laughing to the bank with Jamar Chase putting over 35 points up on the board. What do you have, 38?
I think 39.
39. I mean,
If he didn't have 39, it was like 38-8 or something.
And he had the audacity to say in the chat, surprised none of you guys wanted to trade for Jamar.
No one. I tried to trade him 3 weeks ago. No one.
No, I know. I know you
asked.
did. I know you did. Now I'm
Trying to
kicking
give him
myself for
away.
not taking
No
him.
one
Trust me.
wanted him.
But you got it. You would have been kicking yourself too if you traded him. Now you're happy nobody wanted him, right?
Depends who I got for him. If I got someone like Mike Evans, I would have been very sad. But if I got someone like a Buka or someone, I probably wouldn't be too. I mean, I would be still a little hurt, but not as hurt. I mean,
yeah, I hear that.
One receiver.
You know, that's the thing. That's the beautiful thing about fantasy. And we'll just jump into the pro capper here real quick. Comment from Mama Bank. Is there a turkey bowl this year? Absolutely, yes, there is. We were just talking to the boys in the green room about it, and be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for the turkey bowl coming up here in the next couple weeks. Get your stretches in, run a couple routes, do a couple wind sprints, a couple 100-meter dashes. You should be in good shape for the turkey bowl. I know we'll all be sore. We're gonna get sore every year we do this. We're gonna get more sore and more sore after every contest, but it's worth every minute of it. But talking about the pro capper, obviously fantasy is one of those things that you can never predict the future. You can't predict what is to come. So you mentioned, Tony, the trade, the possible trade with Jamar. Obviously there's certain trades that went through. Scatabo gets traded. He goes off. I think he actually went off before that, but the big one was Ashton Genty, and me and Robert were talking about that last show with that trade between Lucas and Smitty. And that was just kind of, you can call it a fluke, you can call it whatever you want, but I think it was just really impressive to see how that happens. But that's the risk in fantasy. That's the risk you take every single time you throw money down to jump into a fantasy league. You're going to take that risk. Robert, give me a rundown of your team. Obviously, last week was kind of a wash. We don't have to talk about the individual matchup too much. But what can you say about? Let's just look forward. Let's look forward. Obviously, you got Leighton, the Bink fan club, coming up this week. The Spitfire, which Leighton is representing for Canada, the Canadian Maple Leafs. What do you got to say about your team? How do you feel about your team? What's the condition they in? Are you battling injuries? What's the current state of affairs?
Yeah, so I had Robinson was on a bye week, so I got him back from the bye week. Egbuka is back from injury now, so I'm looking forward to that. And Kittle's back off the IR. He's just been sitting on my IR forever, and I've just been playing like 12 different tight ends trying to get one to stick, and it's hard to compare to somebody that puts up 15, 20 points a game at the tight end position. There's only a couple that do it. So, and receiver, I mean, I really took a chance at Jamison Williams. I thought he was going to have a breakout year, and it has been the complete opposite. I mean, they haven't used him at all, and he had no points last week. And look at all the single digits there, man. That's not good. That is not good at all. Especially for wherever I took him. Yeah, was it number 144? Yeah, definitely overvalued that pick, but luckily, I took a shot on a couple guys like Egbuka, and it worked out. So you got to kind of have that mix, right? You got to have like a couple veterans, a couple new guys, and you got to take a chance on a couple rookies. I feel like just because the way the NFL is now, they can come in and just play immediately, whether it's running back, receiver. They're more game ready. Maybe not as much at quarterback. Like I was contemplating like taking Cam Ward, but he hasn't really. He's had a typical rookie season, right? It's hard to knock the guy when he's on a bad team and he's playing the hardest position in sports. So, but yeah, looking forward, is he going to be, have an explosive second year? That's the kind of stuff I think about. But yeah, I think the team's in a pretty good spot, and this matchup this week's going to be fun because my opponent basically has almost the exact same team I have in another league. So I'm like playing my own team almost.
Oh man, how do you feel about that? I guess going into it,
like, what do you root for
your team? Yeah. You're gonna be rooting for your team in the other league. You're also gonna be rooting against him.
Yeah,
in the pro capper.
He's got no less than 4 of my players in my other team, so that's funny.
I mean, you look at too. Let's just talk about Travis Hunter for a quick second, because I'm really impressed with what he's been able to do to actually execute and play offense and play defense, which is something you really, it's tough to find that, right? It's tough to find that. First of all, we didn't think he could do it. We really didn't think he could do it, but when he proved himself and seen that he can do it, he's starting to have somewhat of a breakout. That's impressive. That's impressive to me. And just seeing that DB next to an offensive player in fantasy, I'm not used to that. So, yeah, your team's looking pretty good, man. Solid drafting, solid maintenance, and dealing with players that aren't performing like JMO, right?
Yeah.
Dealing with injuries like Kittle. Hopefully he comes back and he can play at a full capacity, fashion like you expect him to. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. Tony, how you feeling about your team?
I felt better when I drafted it, but now it's not as confident. But there's always issues. You never have a 100% healthy team throughout the entire year. The one that really hurt was the Brock Bowers injury that I'm dealing with at the
Mm.
moment. But hopefully he's back because he has a bye. What this week? I think it's this week. Is it this week? Yeah, he has a bye this week. He should be back next week. Really hoping kind of the same thing Rachow was with, kind of putting every other tight end every other week, trying to find one that doesn't completely suck, which is very hard to find. But the James Conner injury didn't really help for the running back depth. And then obviously Mike Evans was out and then came back. And I was like, all right, let's go. And then, yeah, he broke his collarbone. So that wasn't great. And then when I lost James Conner, I picked up Benson. I go, awesome. And then he got hurt. So
Yeah, let's
kind
talk
of just
about Dowdle, man.
Yeah, I was impressed with your Rico Dowdle pick off waivers. That was that
yeah.
was that was crazy. You sniffed that out. I think the week before he had his breakout week.
Yeah, I didn't see him putting up back-to-back 32s at all, but I did like him as in he's the same player as Chuba is. Like, can catch the ball, fast, good good vision, but yeah, no, I didn't see that one coming, but I thought he was going to be kind of like Benson, give me like 13 a week, but hey, yeah, 32, I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
And then Chase obviously coming back. Well, I shouldn't say coming back, playing better. That's kind of been nice. And then I had
Jeez.
neighbors in another league, so I had to pick up Wandale here, and Wandale's played pretty well. Can't be really complain with that. But talking about rookies that I thought was going to be really good, yeah, he's put up a couple of good numbers last couple of weeks. But who I thought really was going to be kind of a diamond in the rough that's going to turn into a nice, shiny, beautiful diamond that's going to be my number one guy was Golden for Green Bay, and he just has not. I mean, he's getting that he's getting the ball thrown to him. He just isn't putting up the numbers, which I hope it kind of turns around here. But it's kind of like it's a waiting game almost. Kind of like what Rock was saying about Cam Ward. Like he has the potential, he's there, but I'm having a feeling next year's the year he's just going to go off, and everybody's going to be like, "Oh yeah, I seen it all last year." It's like I want him to do it this year, but I can't really control how many targets he gets. So, but I mean, we've been fighting back. Had a good week 1, struggle week 2 and 3, and then it's just been kind of up and down from there. But in a playoff spot, can't complain. So I'm still in the thick of it. So we'll see.
That Gadsden
Yeah.
pickup's pretty good. He had a
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
good week.
hoping. I don't need a 30 from him. I just need a more. Hopefully, he gets 10. Because I had freaking what's his name, the guy from the Jets, and he gave me 4. That was pretty awful.
Montgomery's been depressing. Like
What
I
about
thought,
his
Yeah.
underutilization? I mean, you talk about these players that aren't being utilized, like JMO, like David Montgomery, and last year you look at the Lions. We're gonna end up with the Lions too. We're gonna wrap up with that after we're done with the pro capper stuff. But you talk about such a vast, a diverse lineup, a diverse depth chart. When you're talking about players you want to integrate in certain situations, certain scenarios, that was the last year Lions. That was the Lions that almost got you a Super Bowl bid, or it got you there. It got you almost there to that point where you're working with something that's working. now you're not really utilizing certain players. You're kind of picking your favorites and you're kind of locking in on certain guys. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Amon Ra. I'm talking about Sam Laporta. I'm talking about Jameer Gibbs. Khalif. There's a couple guys that are being locked into. Whose call do you think that is? Do you think that's a Jared Goff call, or do you think that's a call from upstairs?
I think it's
Um,
just like natural progression of the offense, like they're under a new OC, so they're trying to feed their best players. Um, and some good guys are going to fall off because of that. It's hard to feed them all.
That's
yeah, I
true.
mean, look at that Buccaneers game was Monday. Do you really think you should be taking Jameer Gibbs off that field in that game and start handing the ball off to Montgomery? I mean, Gibbs was
Absolutely
just
not.
dominating. So, like, where do you go? Okay, I'm just going to throw in Montgomery here because I said I was going to give him more touches. You're not going to do that because there's no need to, because Gibbs is going off. There's no need to throw another running back out there when you don't need to. Obviously, give him a breather. You want to give him rest and stuff. Throw Montgomery in, but the way Jameer was running all over and catching and breaking tackles and going for 70-yard touchdowns and 40-yard receptions, you don't need Montgomery out there for 40% of the snaps because Jameer's going off.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you talk about underutilization and just players that aren't performing. Before we get into the Lions in the thick of it and talk about their successes and maybe their faults too, I want to look at you guys and see what you can say about them that can maybe be room for improvement. But before we do that, talk about the Bills. Obviously, Tony, you're dealing with that with Josh Allen as your QB1. Terrible within the last couple of weeks. Terrible. Shakir not doing the job. I was even looking at Keon Coleman's numbers. They're not the best, even though he's had a couple good games. And James Cook. I mean, what the hell is going on? You're seeing a completely different team. You're seeing this team be suffocated by defenses where you never would have picked before the game that they would have been suffocated by them. Robert, what can you tell me about the Bills? What are they going through? How do they fix the rut they're in?
I don't know, man, because like when you're playing for a team that historically has been like on the cusp of being great for so long, like how do you rally the troops when it's like, man, we're right there, but we're not. We're right there, but we're not. So that's tough, man. I don't know what you do as the Bills because they can never seem to like get the full picture together as a team. So all three phases need to be clicking. Like they either have a good running game or they don't. Passing game, it's either all Josh Allen or the receivers pop off, and it seems like there's no in between. Um, Personally, I feel like historically their run game was bad. Now they finally got a little bit better with that. If they can build on that and keep it more balanced offense instead of just relying on Josh Allen to run for 3 touchdowns and pass for 3 touchdowns, that kind of stuff. Get a little complimentary football from their defense. It's just tough because they've taken some chances, like we've talked about before, on some players over the years, like the Von Millers and whatnot that hadn't panned out. So I honestly don't know what you tell them. I mean, they're all professional athletes. You just got to say on to next week is really all you can do.
Yeah, Tony, what do you have to say about the Bills, the current state of affairs in Buffalo? It's not good.
If I'm a fan, I'm not very happy. But if I'm a coach or a player on the team, I'm not as worried because I think they have the talent. They have the ability to turn it around and look like they did the first 4 weeks of the season and just look like they're miles above everybody else. The Atlanta game was one that was kind of one that would make me a little worried because if Josh Allen felt like he was making bad decisions that he normally wouldn't make. Couple, I would say kind of bad, I would classify as bad interceptions he had that you just I mean, if he was a rookie or first couple of years, you'd be like, all right, yeah, I can understand why you try to fit that ball in there. But being in the league as long as he had, I mean, MVP, that he wasn't making MVP decisions there. That would be as a fan a little worrisome. But if I'm the coach, head coach, offensive coordinator, whoever, quarterback coach, whoever's in his ear is like, calm down. Let's rein it back in. Let's figure out, kind of just clean up the play, and they're going to be just fine because they have the talent. I mean, Dalton Kincaid probably will come back this week. It's just another weapon they have, kind of spread the field a little more. and I think they just kind of fallen a little flat. And I think they got a little bit of I hit a rough patch, and they kind of instead of like let's advance through this, let's become better. They kind of just sat and were stagnant. And I think they just needed like a jolt in their arm. And I think if they get a good win, or I don't even know who they're playing this week, but whoever they play this week, if they can get a good, I don't know, 10 point, even just a double 2-score win, I think you can see a completely different Buffalo team.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for, especially me being a Buffalo fan. I'm kind of alone out on a limb right now. And like you said, but Josh Allen is making mistakes that Josh Allen doesn't make. So when you see that happen, when you see that take place, who do you look to? Who do you look to? He's basically the guy you look to when the going gets tough, when there's no one else you can look at or look for to get the job done, to get the ball in the end zone, to figure it out. And I go all the way back to week 1 in their game against the Ravens, right? Big AFC matchup, game 1. You come back and win a big game. And obviously you're counting on everyone on that team to do it. But it's your guy calling the shots that is he's the diamond in the rough. He's the guy that's going to get you there. You put your faith in him, and you're going to get the job done. That is starting to dwindle. That mentality, that outlook that others have towards Josh Allen, they're starting to see the kryptonite. And whatever that may be, it's affecting the entire team. It's having a trickle-down effect. So it's troublesome. They're not in the best of spirits. They can't be right now. So hopefully they find a way to get out of this rut. But enough about the Bills. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Robert, tell me about the Detroit Lions. Where are they at right now? Obviously, big win against the Bucs, a big revenge win against Baker Mayfield. How are we feeling about the Detroit Lions right now? Seen a couple squandered opportunities.
Yeah.
We've seen Jared Goff feel like he had more time than he actually did in the pocket, get swallowed up, take a couple scary hits.
Yeah.
But he survived. The team survived, and they prevailed. How are you feeling about this team right now?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. Obviously, you get the new coordinators in there, some new pieces in the puzzle, but the big thing is how they overcame all those injuries. That's like easily one of the best defensive performances that I've ever seen as a fan. And even Troy Aikman said one of the best he's ever seen in his career as a commentator. So I think that was the key to the game, is just how well those no-name cornerbacks came in and played. A couple of them even local guys. So that was pretty cool to see. And you could tell that they came in with a mentality of like, I want to play in the league. This is my opportunity to shine. You could tell it was all coaching and schematic, that they felt comfortable playing out there, that they weren't asked to do too much as new players in the defense. And that was huge, man. And we got Aleem McNeil back, so obviously he's a really great player. So having him back really helped get some pressure up the middle, help stop the run. Tampa Bay's offense was clicking, man. I know they were down some guys. I mean, every team is, but that was a huge defensive performance. And as far as their offense, they're really still getting their legs under them, especially the offensive line. We talked about the underutilization of some players. That really falls back on the offensive line, So if David Montgomery's getting 12 touches a game, but he's only getting 20 yards, that's telling me the holes aren't there, whereas Jahmyr Gibbs, the hole might not need to be there because he's that electric, right? So he's getting maybe the same amount of carries some games, but he's making more of the opportunities. Montgomery obviously had that 150-yard burger he dropped on Baltimore, I think it was. So that was great to see. Obviously, he's still a great player. And really, it's a good problem to have. This is the kind of stuff you want to be talking about as a fan. Like, oh man, one of our great players didn't get the ball a lot this week, but the rest of the team cooked and we won. So like, who gives a shit at the end of the day? And JMO is most affected by the offensive line, because if Goff can't drop back and get 5 to 10, 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw a big deep ball, he's never going to be able to do it, and he's got to have that time in the pocket. Even just 3 to 4 seconds would be enough, but it's like the offensive line just doesn't have that, doesn't have the same gel they had when they had Rachow and Decker was out, in and out this year as well. So I think once they play, get a few more weeks into the year, that you will start to see some of those deep shots down the field.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a good problem to have, especially with JMO, like you mentioned, and Monty, where it's almost a little bit of a different offense. It's a different scheme offensively for Detroit, but it's working for them. They're making the best of it, and they're clicking. They're clicking with that new offense, those new OCs, new DC, and it's working for them. Tony, how you feel about this team right now?
I mean, there's definitely flaws, but overall, they're looking pretty good. Obviously, what it's come from the Lions last 2 3 years is the offense has been the star of the show, and it's basically the defense just has to be competent. And the problem was when they lost their 3 games last year was the defense wasn't even competent. I think you could have did better if you would have just not brought a defense and just let them just run and score every time, because that's basically what the defense was doing. The difference is this year is they have about the same amount of injuries, but the guys that are replacing them, like Rachow said, was they are fighting for their job and they're fighting with everything they have and giving 100%, 110%, and doing everything in their power to break up a pass, cover a guy, help a guy out. And last year you're having guys like freaking Vildor freaking just letting people run past him and you going, oh, well, I'm not going to catch him. I'll just give up. And these guys are, well, I might not catch them, but they're going to tear both their hamstrings chasing them down to try to get there. And will they get there? Maybe. And that's the thing is that 50-50 chance of you getting there and breaking up that pass is different from a 7-yard touchdown to a long third down or a fourth down and you're punting and you get the ball back to that electric offense that we know can score a lot of points. So with all the injuries in the secondary and how they played against Buccaneers offense that had a lot of injuries, but is still an electric offense, gave me a lot of hope that this year, especially if they can make the playoffs, which they should easily make the playoffs, that they're going to be a way more prepared against a good team in the playoffs to actually break up passes and get off the field on a third down that they weren't able to do last year. So I mean, it's still the Lions. They're always will disappoint you. It feels like, but they're getting better. Where I'm feeling a little better every time I watch TV. Where all right, they're down 10. Years past, you're like, well, they're done. Now it feels like, well, down 10, we still got a shot, or up 20 and be like, well, defense is going to blow it. Now it's like, I don't see how they can come back. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling better, but it's still the Lions until they prove me wrong and are holding up the Lombardi Trophy. It's always uneasy watching the end of a Detroit Lions game.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you can get back to reality just a little bit. I mean, but no, you're right. I mean, I even feel this as a non-Lions fan. I have that security where like, oh man, that they're up this much, and usually they'd have them clawing or chewing at their heels. Where Baker and the Bucks were trying to get back in that game, they had lots of opportunities to do it, but they squandered every single one. The game ball deserves to everyone in that Detroit Lions secondary. Got a comment here from Paul Steele. Mr. Goff is a liability if he doesn't pass the ball immediately. If he has to double pump the ball, he's getting sacked or getting intercepted. They need a young player to be ready to take some reps. I mean, that's got to be Kyle Allen, right? He ain't no young guy. It's like, yeah, I agree. And it was Hendon Hooker, but now he's gone, and he had his opportunity, he had his chance. I think he's still growing into his own. I talked about this to both you guys, I'm sure. He's growing into his own. It's going to take him some time to get to that level where he can possibly start somewhere, but he has a lot of work to do. But I got to agree with Mr. Steele here a little bit, just because he's talking about Goff thinking he has all this time in the pocket. And like you said, Robert, if he has 3 or 4 seconds, that's a lifetime back there. I think you got to be thinking 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. You're thinking seriously about getting rid of the ball. You should be. So I guess how do they fix that, especially without veterans like Ragnow leading the front on the offensive line? How does he find a receiver quicker? Do they have more underneath passes, more quick slants, maybe more passes in the flats? How do they do this?
Yeah, and we always knew what Goff was, right? Like if he's got a good setup, he is an elite level quarterback, and he's proven that the last few years. He's been one of the top, if not the top passer of the football for a few years now, statistically. So um, we just got to see the team around him stay on par with what they've been the last few years, and to do that, We really need, we need Decker back and healthy at left tackle, right? I mean, that's a huge piece of the offense that no one was really talking about that they've been missing. So we need him back and healthy. Sewell's had a couple misses here and there. So I don't know if that's just kind of a domino effect of the communication with the rest of the offensive line that's new, or what's going on there. If he's trying to do too much because of that, like he's trying to, play above, his job and his role at times. But yeah, I think they can easily get back to form. And like you said, screen passes, underneath throws, slants, all this stuff that we have all these great players at the skill positions that if we just get them the ball, they can take it to the house. And we don't necessarily have to have JMO catching, a 60-yard bomb once a game. Why not dump it to him in the flat and see what he can do? You saw Tampa do that. They had a couple young guys to where they threw a bubble screen and they took it 30 yards to the house. So we need to have that same kind of mindset when we're getting it to our players that, we don't always need that 3-4 seconds in the pocket to get him the ball. And as far as the Jared Goff hate, I mean, until he wins, it's hard to say no, right? I mean, until he wins the Super Bowl, but statistically in the regular season, especially, he's played really great. He had the doozy of a playoff game last year, but the whole team didn't show up. So it's like, well, what do you blame then? If the whole team, we're not running the ball, we're not playing good defense, what do you do then? And we start turning it over. So trying to do too much. But the year before that, you could argue that if we would have had at least an average defense, we'd have made it to the Super Bowl. They put up 30 points on the Niners, spotted them a 24 zip lead, and we still lost. So you kind of got both cases in the last 2 years. You got Goff playing at a premium all the way through the playoffs, and then you got last year to where he played a really good regular season, but then completely shit the bed in the first week of the playoffs. So we're hoping that we get a couple years back, not last year, Jared Goff, when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, what do you got to say about Jared Goff? Obviously, and I'm just going to go off on a tangent here real quick because I got the time. I just really wish Jared Goff did a little bit of speed and agility training in the offseason. I mean, I've told both you guys, I'm barking up a wrong tree talking about this shit. But damn, I mean, you look at so many other quarterbacks in the league, and don't get me wrong, Mac Jones makes Jared Goff look like Usain Bolt. He's very unathletic. But as long as he can get the job done, nobody really gives a shit, right? Jared Goff's doing that right now. I'm just saying, get a little bit of agility. Having a quarterback with some agility is worth something. I know it's not going to happen, so I'm not even going to bitch about it. Maybe I will, but I don't expect anything to change.
Well, no one is asking that out of Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Because he just won.
But he's still getting the job done. He's still putting rings on fingers. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I think you got to get to the pass and the flats, just like you were saying, Robert. Get to short passes, quick slants. These underneath short passes are slept on. They're underutilized. You want to talk about underutilized players? These are underutilized plays, especially in the Detroit Lions offensive playbook. So, Tony, what do you think that Jared Goff has to do, or the offense has to do to get the ball out of Jared Goff's hands quicker? He's got to know that they're coming. He's got to know these boys are coming, right?
Yeah,
they're on his ass, but he's got to get rid of the ball. But he's like, oh man, I'll get stacked, or I'll get my throwing arm snapped and get a fumble before I get rid of the ball. There's no sense of urgency. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I think he's kind of the last 2 years he had such a great offensive line that, I mean, probably top 2 in the entire NFL, that he was kind of just felt like this is, I don't want to say it's easy, but he goes, I have so much time. It's so nice. Well, you lose your starting center. You lose a couple guards to free agency and injury, and you still got Sewell there at the right tackle, who has been very good, and then you got a rookie. You got a new guy at center, so you got to get chemistry with your new center, and then you got a rookie in the guard position that still learning. I mean, obviously offensive line, but it's bigger dudes, quicker dudes, more beasts on that defensive line that you're looking at than you are in college. So I think he's got to realize, like we were saying earlier, why is J-Mo having such a bad fantasy season? Because you don't have the time to sit there and wait for J-Mo to get 50, 60 yards down the field so he can just launch it to him. And J-Mo's not much of that bubble screen guy. He's that deep threat. So they've been trying to, I think, like we were saying, just underneath throws, just quick bubble screens, short yardage plays for your wide receivers, because you don't have 8 seconds to sit there or 6 seconds to sit there and throw down the field. You're having maybe 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. You got to make a decision. You got to make it quick. And you have the offensive weapons for that. And I don't care how much agility training you give a guy. You can give me agility training. I'm not going to turn into Usain Bolt and all of a sudden freaking break the world record in the 40. He's just not. That's not his style. It's sit in the pocket and throw. And he's got enough ability to get out of the pocket and make a throw, but you don't want him doing that. That is worst case scenario if he's out of the pocket. You want him in the pocket, throw into Amon-Ra, throw into Laporta, throw into bubble screens of Montgomery or Gibbs. You look at what they can do in the open field. I mean, Amon-Ra's built like a freaking brick shit house, and Gibbs is like a ghost. Can't tackle him, and all of a sudden he freaking blink and he's gone. So let them make the plays. You don't have to be the super athletic one. That's why you have skill position players like the Jahmyr Gibbs, like the Amon-Ra's, like the Jameson Williams. So you got to get it out of your hand and into your playmakers' hands and let them make the moves. And if you can do that like we were saying, quickly, you got to do it quickly. You can't sit there and just be like, well, let me think about it. No, there's no thinking. It's just get the ball, make your reads, maybe a second read, and then make a decision. Throw it away, find the open guy, whatever it is. But you got to do quick reads here. We're not going to sit there. You don't got all day. And I think he has the ability to do that. I mean, he was doing it out in L.A., took them to a Super Bowl. I mean, he's looked pretty good as a Detroit Lion. Except for that playoff game last year, he did not look good. But like Rachow said, no one really looked good. So, I mean, you can blame 22 guys in that game. And
honestly, winning's a team sport, man. Winning is a team stat.
You definitely probably blame more because I think there's a couple play calls that I wouldn't agree with. So start adding names onto the 22 that were on the field and add a couple coaches, and probably the water boy wasn't giving the right mix of Gatorade too. So everybody was screwing up in that game. So I can't really blame it on Goff. And Goff's looked good. I can't fault him for he's doing his job out there, and they've looked good. And the offense is, I mean, obviously it's not as good as I would say it was last year, but it's still a top 3-4 offense in the NFL.
Yeah, he's putting dubs in the win column.
Yep.
So can't complain too much.
I mean, if you're look at last year, 15-2, cool, 15 wins, can't win a playoff game. I'd rather be 11-5 or 11-6 and win 2 playoff games. So as long as you just got to make it there, make it to the postseason, and then anything can happen.
That's right. Good deal, gentlemen. All right, that brings us to the end of the show. Robert, we'll start with you. Last words, final thoughts going into week 8 of NFL contests. What do you got for the people?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, like, fantasy-wise, man, this is where you got to really start. This is kind of your last look to really cement your team. So really start looking at the waiver wire, who you got injured. You might have to cut ties with somebody, right? I mean, if you're waiting around for somebody to come back, you might just have to cut it loose because you got to win some games and get in that playoff, get that cheese.
That's right. That's right. Great advice right there. Damn. Everyone's got to take that advice. Now, some of those have sprinkles that might be tough to swallow for people. Sprinkles of advice. So take it with a grain of salt and use it to your advantage. So these are things we have to do to make our teams better going into the final weeks, into the second half of the fantasy season, especially if you're not in playoff contention. But if you are, do everything you can utilizing that advice to remain in playoff contention. Tony, what final words, final thoughts do you have for the people going into week 8?
Honestly, it's just hope for no more injuries, because it's been, like, fantasy football wise, I think it's been a very riddled injury season with big, like I was saying earlier, big names. So if you can just come out with somewhat of an 80% healthy team, you're going to be extremely happy. So hopefully no more injuries. Hopefully, players can stay playing for, 4 quarters and not pulled out on a stretcher like I feel like a lot of players been having happened to them lately, which is unfortunate. But like Rachow said, if you got injuries, start hitting the waiver wire, start trying to find someone to replace them. And I mean, I have Mike Evans on my IR just for team morale this week, but I think he's going to be kicked off to the pasture probably on Tuesday. So But he's there for moral support. He's going to be sitting in his ambulance holding up a sign that says "Go Team."
Yeah, utilize that IR spot. Hopefully they got some comeback potential if they're sitting in their IR spot. And damn it, I just got to talk about this real quick. The maintenance that's required from us, Robert, you as the commissioner, me as the league owner, I guess let's just have some. I don't want to dive into and open a new can of worms here, but what the hell's going on with Sleeper? I mean, do we have to have this kind of maintenance?
Sleeper's trash, man. I mean, I've never had this experience with ESPN, but like, yeah, people be able to stash an extra person on their bench and pulling some crazy stuff that shouldn't even be, you know,
that was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess, man. Yeah. And yeah, people on their IR that aren't technically out for the week or still on the IR. I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Sleeper, you got to figure it out too, because being as one of the leaders in fantasy football services, you can't have these issues. There's really no FAQs or anywhere to go to bitch about this stuff. So I don't know. There's got to be either something we're missing. I don't think it is. I think it's something on their end. But we'll have to figure that out in our downtime, which is limited. But we'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to Double Coverage. Be sure to check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com. Find us on Instagram at ginsportsnetwork, and find all of our social media links in the bottom of this podcast in the description. We'll see you here next time. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been me, John J. II, alongside Robert Rachow and Tony Minarik. Thanks for joining us on Double Coverage. We'll see you here next time. Have a great night.